Yeah, we're live. 7:20-ish. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you guys are doing well and had a good weekend and are ready to start a fresh week. Just recently, in fact, a few minutes ago, or 10, 15 minutes ago, I posted a video called the Turbo Matrix, not the Turbo Matrix, the Camshaft Matrix. We're going all Neo on it. And what it does is it gives you the ability to figure out what your combination, how much power it might make. More specifically, it's designed to figure out what other camshafts will make. So if you, for instance, if I've run a comp 459 cam or 469 camshaft, which is a 231, 239, or 231, 247 at 50, and you have a Texas Speed version or a Cam Motion version or an ISKI or a comp or Texas Speed or whatever. You have some other version of a camshaft that has similar specs. Well, what you can do is look up in this matrix how much power something made when I tested it with that camshaft. And if I ran a 5.3 and you're running a 5.3 and you see the numbers up there, you're like, okay, it's this all very similar, has this camshaft. It's going to make similar power. So what I did in this turbo matrix is I broke it down into, you can't go, a 1 degree change with each thing. That's just not a viable video. But what I did is break it down into 5 different 10-degree increments. So we started down at kind of the smallest, mildest stock camshaft at LS for the LS family, and that's the 5.3 liter or the 4.8 liter, the LR4 or the LM7. So that's 190 degrees at 50. So technically, it's 191, but we started at 190, and so the grouping goes in 10-degree increments: 190 to 200, 200 to 210, 210 to 220, 220 to 230, and then 230 and above, because above that, we start getting into where you definitely need to measure and be concerned about piston to valve clearance. And also, for a 5.3, unless you're going an all-out thing, an all-motor deal, those camshafts would be less popular and less relevant on a 4.8 and 5.3, more so on a 6-liter and stuff. But I digress. What this will do is I've shown you examples in each one of these groups. So from 190 to 200, I've shown you a couple of camshafts when we ran them, what they do. From 200 to 210, again, a couple of camshafts. Now, right off the bat, this isn't absolute. And when somebody asks me a question, says, "Hey, Richard, how much does my thing make?" I'm not giving them an absolute answer unless I've actually tested their thing. Oh, Richard, I've got the LM7, I've got stock 706 heads, I got this valve spring, I ran this truck Norris cam or this Chupacabra cam and the stock truck intake manifold, 1 3/4 long tube headers. I've run that, so I know what that will do. And here, it will do this. But if they have a, stage whatever camshaft that's comparable to that, they have stock heads. Maybe they have 241 heads on it and not 706 heads on it. They still have a truck manifold. Maybe they have a Trailblazer SS. What I do is, and this is what the Matrix can help everybody do. Go Neo. Go Neo. Go Neo. What it can help you do is get a starting point. Okay, I have this. I have a 5.3. I have this kind of cylinder head on it. I have this camshaft, which is very comparable to what's in this range. It's to the high end of that range. So, obviously, if we're going from 200 to 210, a 210 camshaft is going to make more power than a 200 camshaft. And a 220 camshaft is going to make more power than a 210 camshaft. So where you are in that range is going to help determine, where you are power-wise, which is why I give a range. Hey, look, you can add, 30 to 35 horsepower in this range. You can add 40 to 50 or 50 to 60 or 60, 70 or 80 to 90 to 100 or whatever the number is. That's why I give you a range. I cannot give you an absolute answer, but you're not looking for an absolute answer when you're asking for how much power do you think my thing will make. I'm just, even with as much dyno testing as I've done, it's still a guess. It's pretty educated, but it's still a guess. And we're only going to get close. And you're obviously not going to hold, Richard said 467 horsepower. It made 468.4. Well, You probably test it when it's cold, but it can't be that absolute. So what you're looking for is a rough idea. Does it make, like when I'm telling somebody something, make something, is it closer to 400 or is it closer to 450? We're looking there. So what you can do is you can take your combination and go look at this matrix and go, hey, look, I'm here. I'm in this duration range. I have a 4.8 or 5.3 or whatever. Starts off here. This is kind of where we'll be. The ones that I posted today were based on 5.3s. It's middle of the road. I think that there are more 5.3 builds than 4.8s. I think that there are more 5.3 builds than 6.0s too. And so I can extrapolate from in either direction from those. It gets harder to do if somebody doesn't have a lot of experience with that. But it gives people a really good idea. So if you have if you have your 5.3 and you have a stock cam in it, or a 200-degree duration cam, or 210 or 220, 230, whatever, it should help you get a really good idea on where the thing should make power. And I know that now I'm going to get, but I have 799 heads on there and mine flow more. Yeah, it's still going to make the same power. I'm going to get the nuanced questions, because I always get the nuanced questions, but that's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why I do more testing and more testing and more testing. So I get more and more answers. And so I'll be able to answer more and more questions. So that's all good. But I think that will help people. Obviously there are individual tests of camshafts that I did, but I didn't do it specifically for those camshafts. I did it so that when we test a cam that has, 198 at 50, I did this. Okay, well, cams in that range are going to kind of do that. They're going to do exactly that. It's going to kind of do that. The stock one did this. It's going to do that every time. and how I go up from there, and in some of these instances where you saw, especially when I threw in a couple of stock cams, because guys are still doing, especially with 4.8s and 5.3s, guys are still putting LS2s, LS3s, LS6, LS9 camshafts. I even included an LSA camshaft, which would never be my choice. But again, guys have those, and particularly on the LSA, more so than the LS9, you would definitely want to upgrade that to a different camshaft. Because even if you upgraded from the LSA to the LS9, you'd pick up a lot of power. If you upgraded from the LSA to a good camshaft, you could pick up a lot of power. And so a lot of guys got rid of those. And that LSA cam is better than a factory LM7 cam. It definitely makes more power. It also loses power down low, like the LS9 camshaft does. So it wouldn't be the ideal choice, but it is in that duration range. So I showed that. And then I also showed, an aftermarket cam that had the right valve events for what you would want in that range. And you could see it makes more torque down low. And that cam, actually, that LSA cam, like the LS9 cam, actually does very well on the big end. It has a wide LSA. It has enough exhaust duration. It has a big split. It actually does fairly well. But so you should be able to look in there and go, hey, look, so what I'm wanting you to do is, if you have a 5.3 and you want to know how much power it makes, you should be able to go there and have a really good idea. If you have but I have a fast manifold, I don't have a truck manifold, good, add 15 or 18 horsepower, and that'll give you a really good idea. You've seen some of the testing on here, and you've seen what it's worth. So you can just kind of, throw in some numbers there, and you're not going to get an absolute answer anyways. You're not going to get an absolute accurate one unless we get it from the dyno. You're just getting kind of an interpretation between what I think the dyno will do and what it actually does. But this should help guys, should help a lot of guys. And so you should be able to go there and figure out what it's going to do. So that hopefully that helps a lot of people. So we'll see what you guys are doing. Moab's in the house. Get to test the LT1 with a torque head set up tomorrow. What's a torque head? Braden Motorsports Park, nice. Oh, that's right. I forgot. We're not. The end of the weekend isn't tonight. We have Monday. North Carolina's in the house. Integrity News, you're going to want to stop going down the path that you're going down. I'm a big Cleveland fan. There are lots of Cleveland fans here. But to try to put down something else to try to elevate the thing that you like is shows a shows a lack of integrity, and it's not going to be tolerated. So you want to not go down that. If you want to tell us that you like Cleveland's, dude, I'm with you. I like Cleveland's. I've done lots of Cleveland testing, and I think it's a good motor. The LS also is a good motor. So is a Chevy Sprint Turbo. All we're talking about is the good stuff on lots of stuff that we like. If you came here to bash something else to try to elevate your thing because you're insecure or whatever, don't do that. We don't need that here. And like I said, you'll be gone. 5.3, the Magic Stick. Nice. Home ported heads. 650 double pumper dual plane. You need to go to the Turbo Matrix and see if you can figure that out. They get me an L33 and stick it in the corner for future weirdness. They are a good one to have. I mean, just let's you know, let's be honest. I really like mine, and I wish that I had something that I like, maybe a 240Z or something. Maybe the 240Z would be a good one for that. What do you bore 5.7 to 5.3 to 5.7? You can do that. You can do it. You can do it either of many ways. You can put a 4-inch stroke in that and leave the bore standard. You can go up in various different bore sizes, all the way up to a 5.7, a 389, or we go to 3902 or 3905. There are guys that go to 4-inch. I've not done it myself, but I'm told that there are guys that do that. I wouldn't ever run boost on something like that. And you definitely would want to sonic check it before you did that. Or you combine all that and you go to a 3902 or a 3905 and a 4-inch stroke and then make a 383. And that works too. Steven, thank you for the kind words. Of 5.3 L59 and 04 Tahoe, which cam would get me to 400 horsepower? There are lots of different cams that would get you to 400 flywheel horsepower. 400 wheel horsepower is, you're not going to get to 400 wheel horsepower. Turbo Sensor, what's up? Marty, I got myself a 5.3 Gen 4 Texas Speed 223 cam. Operation range is 1,500 to 6,500. Okay. What fast intake works for you? First of all, 1,500 is not going to be where that cam is going to want, where a 223 cam is going to want to make power. A 111 LSA is going to be a little bit better. But is this in a stick or is this an automatic? And if it's an automatic, what's the stall speed? And there are only 2 fast well, there are 3 fast manifolds for that. I think they have the HXR or whatever. That's not a consideration. The only 2 you would consider, I'm assuming that this is a, well, it's a 5.3, so it has to be a cathedral port deal. So you're looking at the fast LSXR or the LSXRT, and both of those make the same power. So there's no comparison there's no performance comparison between those 2. They make identical power curves. I've tested them many, many times on lots of different combinations. So I like the fast. They're expensive though. So know that you're spending $1,200 or $1,300, and you're probably going to get over a truck manifold, 15 or 20 horsepower. .53 stock bore, 5.3 truck Norris with BTR equalizer. You have a truck Norris cam with an equalizer intake manifold. That's not going to be a good combination. You're gonna kill all of the low speed power with the really short runner intake manifold, and then the truck Norris cam is not going to want to rev. I mean, it's only a 211 camshaft. So it's not going to want to make power at high engine speeds. The intake manifold is going to help it do that a little bit, but I think that those are not a good combination. You'd be much happier with a fast manifold or something, some long runner deal. Are you going to compare the LS to a Godzilla? I don't have a Godzilla, so that I wouldn't be able to do that. But there are lots of guys out there doing Godzilla stuff. Evan and Brian Wolf, and I think the guys at Brian Tooley also did some camshafts. I think for Brian, and maybe they're did an intake manifold too. Richard, I popped my cam bearings out and nicked the aluminum block. Should I have it lined or oversized? how bad did you do it? How bad did it hurt it? Should I port my L77 heads or buy aftermarket ones? Both of those are viable options. You can port those heads. A guy can properly, like professionally ported, those will work very, very well. They will support more power than you're probably going to make on that. 214, 222. I'd have to look up the Chupacabra numbers. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they fit in that in that range, in the 210 to 220 range. Is it normal for the pistons to be set down 24 thousandths in the hole? What engine combination is this? Integrity News. I am probably way more familiar with the LS and how it compares to Ford stuff than you are, and I understand all of that. But we're not looking at that. What you're looking at is you want something to be true, and so you're trying to, like I said, you're trying to put down one thing to try to elevate the other, and that's just not a good way to go. 400 modified 351 heads can run 1170s. Yeah, it's just a Stroker Cleveland then. I was surprised. I was happy with how well that thing turned out. And quite honestly, when I started thinking about it, well, it's a I know it's a tall deck, but when we do a 400M, and I'm going to continue to call it 400M until I'm not here anymore. But when you're looking at a 400-inch motor and it has, we put aluminum 4V heads on it. I think that they were Speedmaster or something that Bryce did from Dr. J's. But when you're doing that, you have a 400-inch motor and really good flowing heads, and you put enough camshaft in it. The only thing we didn't have in that one is we didn't really have a whole bunch of compression in it. But still, I mean, it's a 400-inch motor with lots of head flow. It's going to make good power. Australia, what's up? Use a lot of your videos to build my L67 cam 3-inch pulley. Getting tuned tomorrow. Yeah, VS Commodore. Does it have that's a good sized pulley or small sized pulley. Does it have water meth or an intercooler, or are you running any of that stuff on? And what kind of ECU and stuff are you using? I'm curious to see that. Do rec port heads need spring upgrades? It depending on the camshaft, yes. Modesto, you're semi-local. So I found T4 to T3 adapters. What's a good internal wastegate T3 turbo to start with as twins on my Mustang? I don't recommend doing internal wastegates. I would do external ones. 99 LS1, 799 heads, L6 intakes, Summit Stage 4 cam. It's not going to be anywhere near, flywheel. I was going to say, it's not going to be anywhere near 475 wheel horsepower. that would be a lot. Although that's an LS1. So that I keep thinking in terms of 5.3 stuff. 475 flywheel. Yes, I would think so. The piston to valve clearance, you're going to have to measure. I don't know about that. A Summit Stage 4 cam. So we have 799 heads on it. The only thing I don't know about the L6 manifold is going to hold you back a little bit. But we have a much smaller camshaft than that in the Brian Tooley Red Hot cam. And with a fast manifold on it, on a 5.3, it makes 480. So I don't see any reason why it shouldn't make 475 flywheel horsepower because we have the same heads. $400M with 351 two-barrel heads. Are they two-barrel, not Australian heads, right? Not the Australian 2V heads, just regular 2V heads. Are they ported at all? My wife found out the main bearing caps were slightly twisted. I think that was my O-ring problem. No alignment pin. They're not. Is there nothing else that aligns them? They're not aligned on the outer edges, or they're not aligned on the shoulder of the bolt or anything? It's a good supercharger for a 5.3L59. I have lots of videos up on superchargers, so you can pick. Tom DeMuse has the one that you use with the adapters. The Cadillac one's not a viable deal anymore. I don't think that those guys are doing it anymore. Lots of I don't think Kenny Bell has one anymore. Whipple has one. Magnuson had one. Torque Storm has them. ProCharger, Vortec, all those guys had them. Built a 454 to one of your recipes using a 256 cam. That's pretty small for a 454. Using a 256H kit with retainers and springs, stock stamp rockers, high valve train noises. Do you have a did you use the bolt down rockers on this, or does it have adjustable rockers? You can check and see if the rockers are hitting the retainers, or if you have enough retainer to seal. That's a pretty small cam, so I wouldn't think that the lift would be too much of a problem there. But what I'm wondering is is it adjusted correctly? B3 SCI 6 rib serpentine setup having belt slip at or above 5,800. Would like to rev to 6,500. You guys know any dedicated belt setups? We had to. We ran into this belt problem with the. I don't know how much power you're making, but we ran into this when we ran the Vortec. But we were way up there. We were like 850 horsepower or something when we were doing it, and we had to put a lot of tension on the belt. So we went to as short a blower belt as we could. Very popular speed shop has discontinued popular cams for version 2 revised versions due to Spintron data. How detrimental is it to all combos still running the now bad versions of these popular cams? I don't know about bad. I don't know if I would call them bad or not. Were the previous cams not Spintron tested? If they have Spintron data on their new cams, they probably have Spintron data on their old cams so that they would know where there was a problem or if there was a problem. LQ430 over trick flow 220s. I like those Ascast heads. Sloppy stage 2, fast intake, T56. That's going to make good power. What you will want are injectors, certainly enough to support 600 horsepower. I don't think that combination is going to do that, but it's better to have too much injector than not enough. So I would put 80s in it if it were mine. You could get away with stuff that's smaller than that. So if you want to take the injector flow rate, multiply it by 16, that will give you the horsepower number. I think instead of, I don't know, you have a fast intake, so you're going to need an injector that's, 45 pounds an hour or above. Admiral, I use Turbo Smart stuff, but there's lots of other stuff out there that works like that. Stock adjustable rockers on Gen 4. Okay. Adjusted lash and preload. Okay, there shouldn't be any lash, right? There should be preload on it. Uh, you want to do cam matrix for both Volkswagen engines? I don't think I don't even have one cam that I've tested on those. I know I'm pretty far behind. L92 ahead in a Chupacabra. A Chupacabra, I think, is a 550 lift cam, if I remember right. I think you could use the Recport heads for that, the Recport springs for that. I wouldn't. I would pick at least another kind of beehive spring. No alignment at all. You can twist them that far. So what locates them then? Hi from Australia. More information on the Commodore stock computer legacy tune. I don't know what that is. Don't need aftermarket. Yellow Terrell Stealth water to air 55 C cruising up to 75 C under wide open throttle. There's a porting service. I saw the porting service that claims 270, but the airflow isn't just the thing that's going to make power. Admiral, I think I did have to on the LS thing. I think we did have to go to an 8 rib when we were trying to make power. Do you remember Bernie from the race team, Foothills Performance? He works at JRD Motorsports now. He's a good friend of my dad's. I've been wanting to build a turbo LSS 10. Probably going to do twin. Which Bernie are you talking about? Is that directed to me? I do know some Bernies. One of them very well. Marty, happy to help. Man. Would have to be a dedicated setup using the stock accessories and supercharger runs off of it altogether. Yeah. On LS cams, when do you go to longer push rods? You do that when the base circle of the cam is smaller. They're now using their own load profiles based on their newly acquired in-house data. So are you talking about BTR? Get my car dyno this Wednesday, 40 over 351, Dart Pro 1, solid flat tappet, Victor Jr., Brawler. Yeah, for 590 lift. Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't tell us a whole bunch. Because it could be a 590 lift with 200 degrees of duration at 50, or it could be a 590 lift with 260 degrees of duration, and that could change the power output a lot. .416 LS static compression 8.7. What kind of power do you think it'll make? That's all the information I get is just it's a 416 that's 8.7 to 1. Would the cam matrix translate to 5-liter Ford? No. A 5-liter Ford doesn't have the cylinder head that the LS does. T, so your Rocket 350 dropped 2 holes. That's not good. Jesse, $12,000 is way too much. You could put a turbo on your 5.3 and get way more power than that 4.8 does for a lot less money. Can you do dyno retarding a top end cam a few degrees? If you retard the cam, it's going to want to make more power on the top end. If you advance it, it's going to want to make more power down low. Although I tried that on an LS 9 camshaft, which is a top end cam, and it didn't change it. I didn't try retarding it though, which would add power up top. I advanced it. Uh, 777. I always check the push rod length because the push rod length might not be right. But the way that you can tell is if you, well, I don't know how much spring pressure you have. It's not going to work that well. Um, you can try taking one of the rockers off, cleaning the tip of the valve off, and cleaning the tip of the rocker off. Using a Sharpie, color the top of the valve tip, and then put it back together and adjust it, because you're going to take this off when that valve is on the heel, when that lobe is on the heel of the cam, and then put it back on, readjust it, tighten it up a half a turn or whatever you're putting, how much ever preload you're putting in it, and then spin the motor over by hand, not starting it, spin it over by hand, and then look and see what the witness mark is on the tip of the valve. See what the pattern looks like. Should be in the middle of the valve. If it's off to one side or the other, then it's either too long or too short. Did you see the Cletus video where they started out with the nitromethane? I did watch that. I watched that all last night. And I even commented on Cletus, and I told him that I wanted to test something, and he said he was excited about driving it. I said, yeah, I want to see you drive it. I want to see all the donuts. And so it was interesting. I'm going to try that on the 4.8. But I was doing the math on it, and with a stoic value of 1.7 to 1, and as opposed to 14.7 to 1, you need a little more than 8.5 times the amount of fuel flow to make the same power, to have the same stoic value. So that's why, that you can only put so big of an injector in there, but 8 times to make the same amount of power. That's why, guys, you'd have to have basically fire hoses in there to make it work. Yeah, Andrew, there was a little bit of run out in that one back tire, but that thing had been hit. That thing had been in a crash. I'm amazed. My hat's off to the guy that was tuning it, to be able to tune a factory ECU like that with the thing in the car, and with the amount of fuel that was supplied. That was an impressive deal. That was very, very cool. Bertie Van Hammond, there he is. There's my B dog. He just sent me a thing over just a little while ago. Bernie's one of the most awesome guys in the world. So if you know him and he likes you, then you're good people, because he's amazing. If Bernie speaks highly of me, he's making stuff up. Steve, you went to Sacramento Raceway, got 2 runs, 950 at 147 on 7 cylinders. That car's going to move then if it has all 8 of them, right? Need a Briggs & Stratton 18 horsepower motor, run a fuel pump to feed 1.7. Yeah. Yeah. And then that's the problem and that's why we see that, people talk about the top fuel stuff. They're like, yeah, but it makes 10,000 horsepower. Yeah, it does. But it also needs 8.5 times the fuel flow that you would normally need to make 10,000 horsepower. That's why when it doesn't ignite, and that's why it blows the motor apart. That's why the hydro is so bad, because they're pumping so much fuel in there. Richard, what's your opinion on the 8.1 liter LS? Well, first of all, it's not an LS. It's a big block Chevy. But I have videos up on it already, and I'm going to be doing some more. I'm going to take it apart and put ring gap in it, and then I have a set of ported heads to put on it, and that way we can run boost on it again. Because now it's got a cam and a ported intake manifold. Thank you, Amos. So now we got to, at least and I think that there's more there with that intake manifold. Right now it has that ZZ502 camshaft in it. So it made, I think we're near 480 horsepower now. And so I'm thinking ported heads puts us, I think ported heads, and especially because I ran a 92 millimeter throttle, but I didn't run the 102. I think with ported heads, I think we get 500 horsepower more NA. Champster, you want a recommendation for an LY6? You should take a look at the 6-liter video that I have up on. I have a few of them. One of them is how to maximize the power from your 6-liter. Lots of LY6 in there. There's another one where we tested a bunch of different cams on a 6-liter. LY6 and stuff is in there. And then there are a couple of other odd ones where we tested 3 or 4 cams. So you could take the camshaft and pick the power curve that you want. That's why I give you the power curve, so you can go, oh yeah, this curve I think will work best for me. What's a good transmission for Buick 455, big block for highway and racing use? Are you wanting an automatic? I'm not really a transmission guy, so I'm just going to guess. But what are you doing with it? Are you wanting an overdrive? I think that the Buick big block could be run. Could you run that with a 4L80? 8.1 is a new oiling system that came out of the Mark 6 big block, which is cool. But remember, the 8.1 is an all-metric hardware engine, and LSs are too. Alan, you're right. You do need a pole, right? Should I try nitromethane on the stock 4.8 liter LS? Stock junkyard. Boom. Most bigger cams you run have too much overlap. There's lots of them that don't have overlap. And actually, overlap is not going to be bad for your boat with a wet exhaust. Most of the boat motors that I've seen will easily go 218 or something. And it's rolling, it's rolling, it's rolling. The nitromethane thing I think will be cool. I just need to figure out if I have big enough injectors to make that happen. I have 1500 cc injectors, but I don't know if that's enough. Yeah, so 19 times 16 equals 304. Just doing some quick math. Yeah, even if the math pans out, even a stock 4.8 that makes 330 horsepower, I don't know what the brake specific is going to be with nitromethane. But if I'm multiplying out, it'd take about a 20 or 21 pound injector to feed the needs of a 330 horsepower motor. And if we multiply that by 8 times 8.65, which is the difference in the stoic value, we'd need that much more fuel. That's a rough thing. That takes us more than 1,500 cc's. So that might not be enough. I need to get some 2,000 cc injectors, I guess, even for a stock LS. My opinion of Wiseco pistons, I've never had anything but good luck with Wiseco stuff. Kyle, I don't know about your 402. I don't have any idea. I don't know how well your ported heads are. If your 259, 267 is at 50, that's a good size camshaft. I thought about running, Ken. I thought about running a dual injector. I've never set that up, but I think we can do that with the Holly. Can stock Gen 3 5.3 internals handle 420 horsepower? Yes, for the rest of its life, it could handle that. It could handle twice that. So you have no problem with 420 horsepower. Richard, have you seen a power difference in full roller stud mount versus a shaft system on an LS regarding stability? I don't know how I would measure stability. We don't see that on the dyno. I don't run roller rockers normally on an LS anyway, and have only ever run one like full shaft setup on an LS. And we're not running enough RPM or spring rate to, I think, to utilize those. Have you run any Texas speed cams? Yes, I have run a few. Anime, when you are asking a question, please don't use the word thoughts in it, okay? Because that's an open-ended question. I don't like those. I normally don't answer those, but I'm going to answer yours. If you have a 6-liter that has a 220 camshaft in it and has ported 317 heads and a fast manifold, it's not going to make more torque than horsepower, and it's not going to make 335 horsepower. It's going to make way more than that, or at least it should. The 1.8 rockers, I don't like. I wouldn't ever do that, especially since you already have a camshaft that has enough lift already. Richard, what do you think about Phytech intake manifolds? The only one I've ever seen tested is their short runner sniper style manifold, and we know what that does. That's the only one I've ever seen run. Champster, yes, there are videos. You can take a look at there are two with the Chupacabra in there. There's one way back where I did, they sent out a 227 cam or something that I think I did in an LS3. Can't nitromethane be injected through a carb spacer as a mist? But I'm not going to run a carbureted intake manifold. We're going to run an injected intake manifold. Got to use your garden tractor to power the fuel pump. I think we have enough fuel pump for what we're doing. We have enough. We have enough to support that power level, with gas, to support that fuel flow level with gas. So that's not going to be a problem. We have a big air motor brushless pump. That's more than enough for the amount of fuel flow that we need. But I just need a big injector. And the bigger the injector I get, the easier it will be on the pump, because then we don't have to run as much fuel pressure. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work to. I think if we could, I don't know, if we could double the power output or something. But it's obviously cool. Then obviously you got to do boost on it, right? Would stock LS3 injectors be big enough for a cam WI6 30s? Probably not. 30 times 16, 480 horsepower. I probably not. Yes, we saw the Cletus video. We talked about that earlier. Yeah, Anime, you're way off from where you should be in power. I would be surprised if it's not 430 instead of 330. You're way off for some reason. Something's going on there. I'm a new subscriber. What's your background? You should just do a Google search and see. I've been dyno testing for 30 plus years now. That's really all that I do. I don't have a shop. Nitro on the Trail 90. No, I'd rather do it on a 4.8 liter that I don't really care about. Is oxygen in place of nitrous ever a power outer option? It's too volatile. It's actually not a good deal. That all of those things were tried. Oxygen, propylene oxide, all kinds of things were tried when they're doing all this piston engine development for the war way back in the 30s and 40s. And then they decided, hey, you know what works really good? It's not piston engines. His jet engines work really good, at least for aviation stuff. That's going to make planes go really fast. We're still using it though. So we could use a water meth injection and just it'd be a nitro meth injection, which would be a horrible idea because then you'd get uneven distribution and then it would definitely blow up. What fuel pressure do you recommend on Chevy 5.3 with a Trailblazer SS intake and my 06 Trailblazer? Well, the factory fuel pressure on the LSs is 58. Logical dyno comparison. Not with pure oxygen. That's a horrible idea. Nitrous oxide is the best combination because the oxygen molecule is liberated under the heat of the combustion process, and it also acts as an anti-detonant. It's also very cold, which liquid oxygen, if you inject it in there, would be like that too. But it's not very well controlled though. The Navy and Army videos from the 40s were very cool. There's some sharp guys that were developing that, and obviously sharp guys from the English group, and obviously the Germans, and there were some sharp guys. Obviously, they made rockets go into space, so that's pretty cool. Lot more amazing than adding a turbo to a junkyard LS. How's our poll doing? Really, it's only 81%. 19% are saying no, but on the nitromethane. I need to dyno a P51 engine. Yeah, that would be kind of hard. My buddy Bernie got to see one up close, though. They do have big superchargers on them, that's for sure. Is a carb LQ4 good for a 72 swap? Yeah. Yeah, a carb 6 liter. So let's say you put some kind of cam in it, would do a lot better than your usual kind of 350 that a guy would put in there. With ported cathedrals, there's only about 3/8 of an inch worth of thread available before the hole opens up in the port. Makes me think the shaft mount is warranted even at conservative RPM with dual springs. Well, since lots and lots of guys are running that without that problem, I would say that's maybe not as much of a concern as you think it is. I've none of the stuff, including the 8,000 RPM stuff. We didn't run shaft rockers on any of that. Would you still double your horsepower at 1 bar of boost using nitromethane? You might do more than that, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to add a lot more fuel when you're running boost. And you're also getting additional fuel. You're also getting additional oxygen molecules from the fuel, because that's how nitromethane is making the power. It has oxygen molecules present in the fuel. And so you're getting more from the nitromethane. So if we're adding even more of that, the thing that I don't know is the ports and everything in those motors must just be tremendously huge. I mean, I know that they're a little less concerned about the airflow because of the oxygen molecule content in the nitromethane, and this is probably why they're running superchargers on them, which is why a turbo might help to get the airflow that we would need in there, because it would change the pressure ratio to change the density, which would be good and would be beneficial to get the airflow that you need. But you're still displacing an awful lot with that amount of fuel. Is there such thing as a bore to stroke ratio sweet spot on a V8 engine? Yes, the one that you have on the motor that you're talking about is going to be the sweet spot. It's going to work just fine. We did a lot of solid rocket booster stuff in the 70s. It was fun to blow stuff up. That's very cool. Can a sock bottom and 8.1 handle 100 shock? Yes, way more than that. A good rule of thumb for those things is you look at the NA power output and then you do it as a percentage of that. Have you ever seen a Scotch yoke crank? I haven't. Jet engines use water injection to make more thrust. If you've never seen a B-52H bomber take off with water injection, you've missed a lot. I haven't. I like watching them when they use the JATO rockets. That's really cool. My biggest question is, how do I control the carb LQ4 ECU PCM? You don't have to. Lucky for you, I don't know what else you're trying to control. I don't know about what you're doing with the transmission, but the engine itself is very simple. Edelbrock and MSD make an ignition controller that plugs right into all the factory stuff. It plugs right into the coil pack. It plugs right into the cam sensor and the crank sensor. And you can program the timing curve that you want out. They even have ones that have map sensors on them. So you can do it based on map load and not have it just work like a distributor did. Now you can actually have different timing values at different load points and different RPMs. So it's pretty cool. It works very well. Would advanced cam timing be okay for a daily driver 5.3 with a mild cam with 550 lift? My question is, why do you want to advance the cam? How do you know, without knowing where the cam is already, without having tested it at all, just arbitrarily advancing it, all you're doing is taking a chance. It may or may not do anything. Yeah, Daniel, 1.7 to 1. Yes, it's a lot of fuel flow. It's 8.65 times the amount of fuel flow that you had on gas. The thing that, I mean, I guess if we did it with a lambda meter, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But it's when we're mixing the fuel that the different air fuel things become problematic in my brain. Because we're gonna have to run it with, because we won't start off with 100% nitromethane. Obviously, when we do a test, we'll do it the way Cletus and those guys did it. You just start off with methanol, and so I would run it. What I would do is, what I plan to do is run the 4.8. We're running on gas. then we run on methanol, and then you start running it with hopefully real percentages of methanol and nitromethane, and that way we can kind of see, hopefully we have some quantifiable steps, so it should be good. What's the maximum allowable fuel temperature for pump gas? I don't know what you mean. The maximum allowable temperature of the fuel or of the charge air going in? Kyle, you have an LQ4 block. The Summit Pro LS stuff works really good. A Turbo 400 transmission will work with a carb LQ4. Lamp sensor could be problematic with the amount of liquid going through the. It could be, and I need to ask the guys at West Tech about that. I'm gonna have to talk to Brule. I don't remember them ever running nitromethane on anything. I'm sure that now that the guys at Engine Masters have seen how popular that was with Cletus, I'm sure that they're going to do that test. I just want to do it before they do. Is there anything besides valve spring and training upgrade I should upgrade to make a cam to L6 work at 5,000 for extended periods of time? I would maybe look at an oil cooler. The Turbo 400 will work with the LS. You just have to get the all of the bolts don't line up. Most of them line up, and then you just have to get the depth right. And there are kits available for that. You just have to get the depth right for the torque converter and the flex plate, but they already make those. Joshua, is there a reason why there's a lot more 5360s and 57 LS1s? Is there a reason people don't like 57s? There's people. It's not that people don't like them. They do like them. The problem is that they only put 57s in cars, in Camaros and Corvettes, and in like GTOs and things, and in Holdens and stuff in Australia. But they made like a handful of those, and they made millions of trucks. So the odds of that, and an aluminum motor, a 5.7 is going to be an aluminum motor. So aluminum motors are more desirable and more expensive. So those usually are gone right away. But since there's so many trucks find their ways into wrecking yards, that's what everybody's getting. They're getting all the truck motors. And that's why they're more popular, is because they're more readily available and they're less expensive. A 6.0 is expensive. A 5.3 and a 4.8 is not expensive. Did the Nitro results get skewed because of a second gear pull? What I would like to see is, I wish they would have done a they could have done this just on the methanol. I wish they would have done a second gear pull and then a third gear pull to see what the difference is between those two. And then they were doing all the rest of the second gear stuff. And then we could have extrapolated at least from there. That's what I'd like to have seen. But dude, my hat's off to them. That was awesome. Did you ever run an LS with a GM distributor setup? No, I think, to me, that's a huge waste of time. I mean, I don't know why anybody would go out of their way to put a distributor on an LS, because it's an awful lot that you have to go through to put it on, when you could just plug in the MSD unit and it works. It works great. Zach, I'm scrolling back before I read your thing. Specs for the cam are very similar to the BTR Stage 2 truck cam. I think advancing it would give me more torque and horsepower sooner for stoplight to stoplight. Like I said, you don't know if it's going to do anything or not. You don't know if there's advanced ground into the cam already. It would just be speculation. I'd like to see the effects of ad gas with toluene, with toluene. On your 496, we've done 1,000 horsepower stuff. I don't know how long I would do that, but for driving around on the street, I think it would be fine. Does an oil cooler heat exchanger as a higher pressure oil pump good for higher RPM or leave it stock? You don't need higher pressure. That thing probably has a lot of pressure already. If it has stock bearing clearances in it, the pressure is already going to be high. Are rear drum brakes safe running with the carb LQ4? How well does the thing stop? That's what you have to ask yourself. You don't need to add ABS to a classic one. You just need to have good brakes on it. There's a video on here of an LS supposedly running nitromethane on a stand. Yeah, I don't know why you do that. I would want to see the power. Oh, so T, your gear set still had the vinyl gears on it. For a street bike swapped ATV, wondering how fuel temps affect 4 small carbs, gas tank above the engine. If the fuel gets hot, it will help it vaporize. You'll get better fuel mileage. Advancing Yuzu go towards top end power. That's not accurate. Advancing the cam improves low speed power. Retarding the cam improves top end power. As a general statement, that's like I said, you don't know until you try that. Would you think it'd be more affordable? I don't ever see small block 400s. And of the two of those, I would way rather put a 6-liter than a small block 400 in a car. Talk about stock injector flow comparisons, Gen 3 and Gen 4. What is it you want to know about them? I mean, there are things online that list all of the factory injector flow rates. That's really easy to access. I don't need to do that. Harley, we got yours will be the last question. I'm going to close out our poll at 82%. You guys disappoint me. That should have been 100. How much power is it worth on a small block Chevy blocking out the exhaust cover on aluminum intake manifold? I honestly don't know. I think probably more the more the car was driving around, and then if you blocked it off. But I don't know, because I don't know how much of a temperature change there's going to be in the intake manifold by not having that on there. I know that it's always the thing that people do. And if it does change the temperature of the intake manifold, which it should, I don't know how much it changes the temperature of the airflow going through the intake manifold. So I honestly don't know. And I don't know if we tested that on the engine dyno, like if I took the Pontiac and then ran it and then blocked out the exhaust crossover and then ran it, and then we could see if there's a difference. But I don't know if that's even a good change, though. I don't know if that shows us what it would show us when we're running it in the car, because we never run it at 180 or 190 degrees water temperature anyway, and then we never run it with a hood closed and all that. So we're already getting good stuff. And on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. If you have not, please go look at the video that I just posted on the turbo matrix. If you want to know how much power your combination makes, you could probably figure it out using that matrix. See you guys all tomorrow.